Happy holidays, everybody. I was sitting here reading about Lucifer, and I thought to myself, isn't this a coincidence? There's probably no time of the year more Luciferian than now. Everybody is obsessed with consumerism, spending money that they don't have, going into debt for the next months, actually, so they can buy things that they don't actually need. Anyway, I'm going to read some lines and comment at the same time. An egomania occasioned the fall of Lucifer, who would be, quote, like the Most High, thinking, who is like me in heaven or earth, and desiring to deify himself, not in the way discussed below, but by an abnegation of selfhood. But as St. Thomas Aquinas says, by the virtue of his own nature and of his own power, we are all, to a greater or less extent, egomaniacs, and to the same extent, followers of Satan. In the book Acts 5:36, refers to a certain Theudas as a boasting himself to be somebody. Theudas was a Jewish scholar, and he was the head of some movement, Luciferian movement. He wanted to elevate the self, the ego, but the movement wasn't that successful, at least not in those days. If he was alive now, he would have been quite successful. In the vernacular, when a man is presumptuous, we ask him, who do you think you are? And when we refer to someone's insignificance, we call him a nobody, or in earlier English, a nitting. In this worldly sense, it is a good thing to be someone, and a misfortune to be nobody. And from this point of view, we think well of ambition. To be someone is to have a name and a lineage, or at least to have a place or a rank in the world, some distinction that makes us recognizable and conspicuous. Our modern civilization is essentially individualistic and self assertive, even our education system being more and more designed to foster the self expression and self realization. And if we are at all concerned about what happens after death, it is in terms of the survival of our treasured personality with all its attachments and memories. So, what is this Luciferian movement? It's an egomaniac movement. You see, Lucifer, like all pagan gods, he fell from heaven. Yes. Why? He just had trouble remembering. He had a problem with memory. Remembering what? Recollecting what? The truth. See, the truth doesn't have an expiration date. The truth doesn't have a beginning or an end. The truth is the truth is the truth. And when a god forgets or has trouble recollecting truth, he falls from heaven. That's what happened to Lucifer. He mistaken the ego for the self. He mistaken the ego for the self. So he fell from heaven. Nowadays, most people are individualistic, mean they are focused on the ego. They are self-assertive. They are concerned only with their opinion, with their expression, their realization. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They never spoke, I'm going to become this or become that. They only want to do things, right? They just want to do things. They don't want to become better version. No, they want to do things. In other words, or on the other hand, in the words of Maester Eckhart, the Holy Scripture cries aloud for the freedom from the ego. All scriptures in all traditions of the past, they scream aloud freedom from the false self, freedom from the ego. In this unanimous and universal teaching, which affirms an absolute liberty and autonomy, spatial and temporal, attainable as well here and now as anywhere else, this treasured personality of ours is at once a prison and a fallacy, from which only the truth shall set you free. A prison because all definition limits that which is defined, and a fallacy because its ever-changing compositive and corruptible psychophysical personality. It is impossible to grasp a constant and impossible therefore to recognize any authentic or real substance. The ego, this false self, is impossible to grasp because it's in constant change. It's in constant becoming. Yeah? It is a fallacy to think of it as the self. Yeah? And it's a prison. The self becomes a box. Trying to define the self, this false self, the ego, it just puts limits. The ego has limits. So every time you're trying to define it, you are putting it in a box. That's what modern psychiatry does nowadays. Just, elevates the ego and puts it in a box. Modern psychology just studies the ego and its behavior and limits the ego. It puts it in a box. And the thing they also do is elevate it. They elevate the ego. People who go into what's called therapy, they come out worse. Well, because they are only concerned in affirming their dysfunctionality, because the more they affirm dysfunctionality, the more they get paid. People return when they like what they're hearing, right? So they will return over and over again. So to affirm this false self, it's a money, scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme to make money. They don't want to help you. They just want to make money. This personality has a beginning and an end in time. And it's always changing. It doesn't have real substance. It is a merely reasoning and mortal animal. Tradition is in agreement with the modern determinist in affirming that this man so-and-so has neither free will nor any element of immortality. The psychophysical, the ego, has no free will. You want to know why? It has no free will. Because if it had free will, it would never get sick. It would never perish. It would never die. Nothing bad would occur to it either. You understand? The psychophysical, the ego, has no access to free will. Only the spiritual has free will. So free will is potential. It's not actual, it's potential. Only when you start identifying with the spiritual, that's only when free will becomes a thing.